The Galactic Council had always viewed Earth with a detached curiosity, its leaders filing humanity away under the labels of peaceful and primitive. They observed Earth's attempts at diplomacy, its comparatively modest technologies, and its seemingly insistent focus on maintaining peace as signs of weakness, an understandable fear of the larger galaxy. Their assumption was simple: humans preferred negotiation over confrontation because they feared war. The Council, made up of species that spanned the stars, had seen civilizations crumble under the pressure of even their slightest military presence. To them, Earth's hesitation to expand aggressively, its limited space presence, and its choice to focus on trade rather than conquest only reinforced the idea that humans were passive. When the Council needed additional resources to fund a new intergalactic project, Earth was seen as an easy target. The decision was made. Earth would be given an ultimatum to join the Council or surrender its autonomy. Council broadcasts filled Earth's skies with the message: humanity could submit peacefully and contribute its resources to the greater galaxy, or face the inevitable consequences of resisting. The wording was diplomatic, almost polite, but the intent was clear: join, or be subjugated. On Earth, the reaction was not what the Council expected. Governments, military leaders, and civilians alike were stunned, but not out of fear. Humanity had endured countless wars, often against itself, and understood the true cost of conflict in ways the Council could not comprehend. Meetings were held in every major capital, summits that brought together politicians, scientists, military strategists, and even historians. The Council had unknowingly struck at the heart of what it meant to be human: the relentless drive to survive, even in the face of impossible odds. After days of intense debate, the decision was unanimous. Humanity would not bow to a foreign power, no matter how advanced. But there was a catch: they would not fight on the Council's terms. Instead, they would turn the tables, showing the Council that Earth's restraint was a choice, not a weakness. Humanity would use every lesson it had learned through centuries of struggle, turning its deep understanding of psychology and warfare into its greatest weapon. Soon after, transmissions from Earth reached the Council, signaling a supposed openness to negotiations but filled with cryptic language. Hints of Earth's storied history of conflict slipped through, whispers of powerful, ancient weapons developed during times when the planet was on the brink of destruction. These vague references were no accident. The Council's intelligence agencies began to notice transmissions about nuclear arsenals and biochemical developments from decades past, whispered about in such a way that they seemed almost mythical. The Council, usually united in its goals, started to show the first signs of unease. The human messages spoke of weapons that could turn entire battlefields into wastelands, and that perhaps such things were still within Earth's grasp. Some alien leaders dismissed it all as human exaggeration, but a growing number began to question what lay behind these veiled threats. Within days, Earth's space around the planet started to feel different. The Council's scouts reported strange patterns, fleets appearing and vanishing, seeming to taunt their sensors. Humans weren't showing brute force but rather hints of a readiness to defend their world that was both subtle and unsettling. Despite not yet firing a single shot, they had created an atmosphere of unease, hinting at something lurking beneath the surface. It became clear to some within the Council that this so-called fearful species was something else entirely. The ultimatum hung in the air like a storm cloud over Earth. The Council's message was clear: humanity would yield or face annihilation. But on Earth, the response was far from surrender. Leaders convened behind closed doors, a coalition of the world's top minds gathering to forge a response that no alien coalition could anticipate. There would be no submission, no quiet acquiescence. Humanity had no interest in war but would not hesitate to defend itself, and it would do so on its own terms. As the hours passed, Earth's response took shape, a plan that relied on wit, deception, and their knowledge of the enemy's psyche. Humans knew they couldn't match the Council's massive armadas or advanced technology head-on. Instead, they would fight a war of perception, bending truth into a weapon just as potent as any laser or cannon. The Council had underestimated Earth's capacity for psychological warfare, and now they would face the consequences. First came the broadcasts, encrypted transmissions that the Council's agents quickly intercepted, as planned. The messages contained technical jargon that hinted at weapons of unimaginable scale, referencing cryptic projects from humanity's past: Operation Doomsday, Project Armageddon, initiatives they'd never seen but could only guess at. Each name seemed more ominous than the last, fueling rumors and speculation within the Council's ranks. Intercepted communications became riddled with tales of humanity's rumored stockpile of biochemical agents, weapons of mass destruction, and their supposed willingness to use them without hesitation. Council officials dismissed these as scare tactics, but unease grew among the ranks. What kind of species could endure millennia of self-inflicted war and emerge united enough to face an intergalactic threat? Stories circulated about Earth's historical wars, its legendary resilience, the concept of mutually assured destruction. Some in the Council laughed off the notion, but the seeds of doubt had been planted. The Council had never encountered an adversary willing to turn their own fears into a weapon. Then the rumors of hidden superweapons began to circulate. From mysterious EMP fields that could disable entire fleets, to technology rumored to scramble navigational systems, each whispered threat spread like wildfire. Every military mind within the Council found themselves on edge, and when initial scouting ships reported back with nothing but static, those rumors seemed dangerously plausible. Reports of strange disturbances near the outer edges of Earth's orbit began piling up. Drone scouts returned with cryptic images, flashes of movement in deep space that seemed to vanish without a trace. The Council began to feel like they were being watched, monitored by something far beyond their comprehension. This constant state of anticipation wore down even the most seasoned commanders. Council analysts scrambled to decode Earth's behavior, watching for any sign of weakness. But each intercepted message seemed to carry a sense of implacable resolve, as if humanity were saying, "Come if you dare, but be warned, we are not as you believe." The Council's forces found themselves second-guessing every move, their usual confidence worn thin by a foe they couldn't fully see or understand. The tension mounted further when Earth's representatives sent a final message, deceptively calm and straightforward. "We have endured hardships you cannot fathom, and we do not seek to add more. But know this, if you threaten our survival, we will respond in ways you cannot predict." The Council launched their initial strike, confident in their superior technology and sheer numbers. They expected Earth to falter under the pressure, to be driven into submission quickly. But instead, they found themselves facing a series of unexpected setbacks. Humanity didn't engage in large battles or gather fleets in one place. There were no grand defenses to be shattered. Instead, they seemed to vanish into the vastness of space, slipping away from every straightforward engagement. This was not the fight the Council had prepared for. Across the galaxy, whispers spread that humanity was using guerrilla tactics on an interstellar scale. Council ships went missing, supply chains were disrupted, and stations crucial to the invasion effort reported strange technical failures. Small, seemingly insignificant attacks turned into larger problems as entire supply routes fell into disarray. Human forces struck fast and disappeared, leaving Council ships stranded, their fuel drained or their navigation systems mysteriously corrupted. The Council's logistical hubs, normally secure and untouchable, were suddenly at risk. Special operations units, trained in Earth's centuries of covert tactics, began infiltrating Council bases, moving like shadows. They left behind just enough evidence of their presence, scratched out human symbols, coded messages, that the Council forces were left uneasy, haunted by ghosts they couldn't catch. It became clear that humans were targeting the minds and morale of the enemy as much as their resources. Each successful strike sent a ripple of fear through the ranks, reinforcing the idea that humans weren't merely defending, they were hunting. Within Council command centers, panic began to spread. Council soldiers, unaccustomed to such unpredictable tactics, found themselves on constant high alert, struggling to anticipate human strategies that seemed almost illogical yet devastatingly effective. The sense of superiority the Council forces had once felt was slipping away. For every drone they deployed, every scout they sent, humans had a countermeasure, leaving alien forces to question if they were being outmaneuvered by sheer ingenuity alone. Reports circulated that human operatives had breached secure channels, intercepting communications and broadcasting them back, twisted to instill doubt and paranoia among the Council's forces. The narrative shifted subtly. These humans weren't running scared. They were toying with their attackers, unearthing hidden Council weaknesses and exploiting every vulnerability. Council generals found themselves second-guessing orders, wondering if each directive was part of some unseen trap. What had begun as a show of dominance had become a psychological quagmire. Alien soldiers who had once considered humanity as little more than a curiosity now viewed them with apprehension. The Council had once relied on precise strategy and overwhelming force, but humans were rewriting the rules. In their every interaction, there was a sense of something far more powerful and primal, a resolve built not from desperation, but from a centuries-old understanding of survival at all costs. Council soldiers began to speak of the reckoning, in hushed tones, an unknown but ever-present threat lurking in the dark, one that they were beginning to realize they might not be able to match. The Council's high command grew increasingly concerned as reports continued to flood in, each new loss stinging more than the last. It was becoming apparent that they weren't just fighting a civilization, they were battling a deeply ingrained survival instinct. Earth was turning the tables, and the Council, for the first time in its long history, was beginning to understand fear. As weeks passed, the Council's forces were stretched thin, fraying under the relentless, invisible pressure of human resistance. Every new day brought another setback, another fleet disrupted, another supply line compromised. Alien commanders who had once laughed at the idea of a death world, like Earth, were now forced to reckon with what that term truly meant. Humanity, with its unpredictable and unyielding tactics, was changing the very fabric of this war. In one last, desperate bid to reassert control, the Council's high command ordered an assault on Earth's outer defenses, a show of overwhelming force meant to end the conflict once and for all. Every ship they could muster was sent to break through, aiming to strike at humanity's heart. But this time, humanity had set the stage, and as the Council's fleet moved in, they found themselves ensnared in a final, calculated maneuver. Humanity didn't meet them in open space, nor did they cower behind planetary defenses. Instead, they unleashed a series of synchronized attacks on the Council's ships, using precise timing and resourcefulness to cripple the fleet's mobility. EMP pulses, disabled navigation systems, cyber intrusions, all tactics employed with flawless execution. The Council's ships found themselves isolated, unable to communicate, each vessel cut off from the others. For the first time, the alien forces felt the magnitude of Earth's determination, and the Council's long-held confidence crumbled. The flagship, a massive warship known as the Regent's Triumph, became the focus of humanity's final message. Earth's forces converged on it, their strategy swift and relentless. In a matter of hours, they disabled its shields and breached its defenses. Council leaders aboard the ship watched in horror as their screens filled with human transmissions, displaying not a demand for surrender, but a simple, powerful message. You came here seeking control. But we are the masters of our own fate. As the Regent's Triumph fell silent, the Council's fleet finally began its retreat. Their once indomitable forces, broken and scattered, limped back to their home territories, burdened by the haunting realization of their failure. Humanity had not only defended itself but had done so with a ruthless clarity that the Council had underestimated. Earth, they now understood, was a world of survivors, a place where peace was valued precisely because its people knew the cost of war. Back on Earth, humanity watched as the last of the Council's ships vanished from their scanners. They had faced the threat of annihilation and had emerged victorious without sacrificing their integrity. As the dust settled, Earth's leaders sent a final message to the Council's governing body. We are willing to seek peace, but we will never surrender. Across the galaxy, the story of Earth's resilience spread like wildfire. The Council, now shaken and humiliated, reevaluated its stance, haunted by the realization that their victory was never as certain as they believed. And humanity, once considered an insignificant species on the edge of space, had earned a new reputation, no longer seen as fearful or passive, but as a force that, when provoked, would rise with unbreakable resolve and the cunning to turn any weapon, even fear itself, against those who threatened it. In the aftermath of the Council's retreat, the galaxy began to whisper of the human victory. Word spread rapidly, passed from one world to another, an account of a small, isolated planet that had stood against the Council's might and forced an empire into retreat. Those who heard the tale spoke of Earth not with mockery or dismissal, but with a growing respect, even fear. They began to wonder about the quiet strength of this species that seemed to value peace yet proved itself an unbreakable adversary. The Council, humiliated and battered, faced a reckoning within its own ranks. The leadership had to account for how they'd underestimated Earth and had nearly shattered their entire reputation as a ruling force. A once arrogant alliance found itself divided, with factions emerging that questioned the wisdom of the invasion and the validity of treating other species as resources to be harvested. High-ranking officials, once steadfast in their belief of human inferiority, were now confronted by their own soldiers and citizens, who had watched the Council's power waver before the resolve of a single world. Diplomatic envoys from other alien civilizations, long wary of the Council's influence, saw a new opportunity. They reached out to Earth, cautiously but with genuine interest. A quiet network of alliances began to take shape, each species drawn to humanity not by fear but by curiosity and mutual respect. Earth, once isolated on the galactic stage, found itself with potential allies who admired its resolve and independence. The humans, understanding the delicate nature of these new connections, chose a path of cooperation, cautiously extending a hand to those willing to meet them as equals. In quiet council chambers on Earth, human leaders gathered once more, discussing the lessons learned from this conflict. They agreed that victory wasn't in the might they had shown, but in the unity and resilience that had defined their strategy. Through intelligence and tenacity, they'd earned the right to be respected, and they knew now that their role in the galaxy was not as conquerors or aggressors, but as defenders of their own peace and principles. The Galactic Council, meanwhile, was forced to reconsider its entire approach to governance and expansion. Their encounter with humanity had exposed the flaws in their system, their unchecked assumption of superiority, and their disregard for the strength and will of other civilizations. They returned to their territories humbled, beginning an era of introspection, even reform, as their leaders grappled with the reality that their vision of the universe was not as absolute as they'd once believed. On Earth, life resumed with a sense of quiet pride. The scars of the struggle remained, reminders of the cost of defending one's home, but the people now understood their place in the stars. They had faced an empire that sought to bend them, and they had not only survived, they had triumphed. And in doing so, they had carved out a legacy of resilience and respect that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come.